Hi, I am Manuel Adrogué and I do classical taekwondo. I am in charge of this Korean kicking project. Welcome to episode 8 of this 9 video series. This particular video reviews my 24 technical tips for training Korean style kicks. It assumes that you have watched the prior episodes. Actually, it is one of the few videos in the series that is completely unable to stand on its own. I have also given myself the chance to include good pictures of martial artists with impressive kicks, putting their names so that you may identify them. In some cases, the photos are directly related to what I am saying, and in others, they are just for inspirational purposes. Before I pitch my 24 tips, I want to list some choices in kicking method that I have adopted for my school. I insist that the choices that I will mention now are not a matter of what's technically correct or incorrect, but it is more to what I consider methodologically convenient or inconvenient. So those choices are: in our method, we only train outward crescent kicks and don't use the inward crescents. Our crescent kicks are always planted with the kicking leg back. Our side kicks always finish with the kicking foot forward. We never bring the kicking foot back. We only use the side kick either with the leading foot or with the rear foot using spinning. Instead of doing a spinning back mule kick, we use a spinning back side kick. Our reverse round kicks, when performed with the leading foot, are done without bending the knee, so we don't hook the kick, they are extended forward and they land forward. Our spinning back reverse round kicks always complete full circle and land back to the starting point. And finally, our axe kicks always land forward and are usually done from the inside out. I want to thank our black belt members Camilo Martinez, Federico Canavese, Rafael Sabini, Sebastián Sánchez and Raúl Portas Esquivel for their help in this episode. Kicking, when done Korean style, is an art by itself. If you really want to kick well, consider the art of Korean kicking as something that deserves separate attention from sparring, that is separate also from forms, and separate from breaking. Aim to technical perfection, to perform the kick in its ideal form with the purpose of attaining natural motion and proper impact, and try to stay away from variations that, even if they are recommended to be faster, more powerful, or easier to apply, they will deviate you from your goal. If you ask me what is the ideal form of classical Korean kicks, I will probably mention masters like Chong Lee, Simon and Philip Rhee, or Jun Chong, the guys who I admired in the 80s. I say that the manner in which Koreans approached kicking is that of an art because, without being entirely functional, it transcends its original fighting purpose, and its experts may express the beauty of the human body in motion. My second tip is that you kick long, as far as possible, falling into the target. Accept to fall forward and, When you become good enough, you will have learned to fall gracefully, as Buzz Lightyear did, into the target. Actually, after years of teaching, I have found that stressing the forward direction into the target works well as a correction factor. It may mitigate technical defects, particularly in advanced kicks. Taekwondo kicks are practiced assuming the opponent is far, and that you need to reach out and hit him swiftly before he may intercept, cover, or evade. Accept that kicking is to a great extent a falling process, and you may want to fall into your opponent because your body weight will increase the momentum of the kick. Remember that the origin of Korean kicking is trying to get further with your kicks. When you become an advanced kicker, you will be able to recover balance after impact and land gently. But don't fool yourself throwing empty kicks that look controlled because they carry no body weight. Always remember the letter Y principle invites you to fall forward rather than backwards. Since some degree of falling is unavoidable, make it a habit to fall in the direction of the kick, and after impact, try to land smoothly. Initially, you should not care about control, but about hitting the target. Power and motion are learned first. Control is a distant second stage. So extend yourself as far as possible. Each additional inch of your kicks when training adds tremendous muscular and tendon strength in your physical transformation process. Extension is a combination of height and distance. Just try, with the guideline of proper form, to stretch as much as possible into your kicks. Until you are an advanced kicker, too much emphasis on control is like a Formula One racer being overly concerned about the brakes instead of attaining speed. We are primarily interested in maximizing physical extension. Control will come later. Today, there's a tendency in the ITF circles when performing patterns to shorten the kicks for additional control. When I say shortening the kicks, I mean the trick of not fully pivoting the base foot to keep your balance or not extending the back to align with the kick. While control is desirable and looks good, do not fall into the temptation of subtracting a couple of inches from your kicks. Those are the inches that may sometimes save your life. So your training concerns should be on rhythm and form, later power, and much later control. My third tip is that you hold your kicks extended, that you do a lot of slow motion kicking, and that you use the bar. At beginner or intermediate level, do not worry about applicability of your kicks. The 24 combos shown in episode 1 are designed to develop specific physical and technical attributes. Get used to holding your kicks extended for a long time, a sort of specialized weight training. The strength that you need for kicking does not come from anything but kicking itself. I recommend slow kicking using ankle weights, particularly consecutive kicks, which may give you a decent maintenance workout in just 20 minutes. While punching and kicking, we have no problem on holding our arms extended for some time. However, when it comes to kicking, the heaviness of our legs and feet become a problem due to insufficient leg strength. Now, imagine how much easier kicking would become if you took the weight of your legs out of the kicking equation. So my practical advice is that instead of recovering immediately your foot after kicking, you hold it extended for 1 or 2 seconds before bringing it back. One of the best training exercises is to lean on a bar or a wall and hold your kicks for some time. That will provide stability so that you may remain there. It will help you with the balance of your body and to explore how high and how extended you can keep your kicks. I use the bar a lot, doing consecutive kicks in slow motion to improve my alignment, flexibility and strength. But it is particularly good also to check the chambering position and how you are putting your base foot, which should always be fully pivoted, as I have insisted during this series. Good chambers make up good kicks. When chambering, you should place your knee high, pivot the base foot and keep your head up. A big secret of Korean martial arts is the proper use of bouncing motion. The bouncing motion means that initially you sink your body weight down, bending the knees so that you can bounce off against the floor. The bouncing image means that you sink on the ground, bending your knees for a while, pushing off against the floor, being propelled for a short while so that your weight is lifted, your head is up, and that brings you to the extension phase in which you align your shoulders and hips into the target for impact. Spend enough time practicing your side kick and round kick chambers and keep your head up, suspended. Just a note, not all kicks have a chambering phase. For example, crescent kicks, axe kicks and reverse round kicks don't. It is very important that you can kick without any additional initial motions for adjusting your body or feet. Even if at first it seems easier to take a preparatory step, you must learn to release your kicks without preparation. The kick should always be as good as its impact. So I recommend to focus on its general form and the quality of impact. Only once you get it reasonably right, you may want to shift and look at further detail for the preparatory stage. You must be diligent and include in your training both kicks to the air and kicks to target. You need both of them. When you kick to the air, if you do it correctly, you will naturally generate a counter force to keep your motion stable and controlled. If you get too used to control the motion in the air, when you try to strike a target, you will probably find that the impact is not strong enough. Target training is a remedy to so many kicking problems, so I make sure that I introduce it in the very first class. Of course, if a student gets too used to kicking targets, what might happen is to excessively rely on the fact that, for example, the heavy bag will stabilize your own motion. The solution to the air kicking versus the target dilemma is simply to practice in all ways possible. You should kick to the air, you should kick light targets such as tree leaves, rolled up magazines, X-ray plaques that I really like, paddles, paos, shields and heavy bags. By trying with different kinds of target, what you will learn is to adjust your kick to the different types of resistance, which is the same difference that you would make when kicking the trunk of a big person versus doing a snapping kick to the head. With time, you should also try speed braking to loosely held targets and also power braking to thick and solid targets. In spinning circular kicks, get used to passing through the target in an adequate line. When you are a black belt, you should also try to practice stopping the back spinning round kick upon contact. Kicking skills are built by practicing kicks in all manners possible. Thrusting and snapping are not simply two binary alternatives. Impact is the result of solid perpendicular contact made up of acceleration, momentum, and structure. Snap kicks and penetrating kicks are not two different variations, but rather identify the two extremes of a spectrum. Normally, a kick will have some degree of penetration as well as some percussive effect. Snap works well against targets of low mass, such as the head of soft parts. After a fast strike, the impact tool is withdrawn and the impact waves travel within the target. Deeper penetration of an attacking tool is related to momentum and body mass, and it works very well against heavy targets such as the torso. Snaps tend to be used in short kicks. Penetration usually adopts longer shapes. Snapping typically means that the focal point is about 1 inch beyond the surface and then retrieving, while thrusting usually means that the focal point is about 3 inches beyond the surface. But when kicking, it is a serious mistake to use different technical forms and mechanics according to the supposed division of snapping kicks versus thrusting kicks. All of them should always be perpendicular to the target. The form should be exactly the same. Trust me to always train the long kicking version. After plenty of long kicking, your kicks will be fast and also snappy. It is always easy to snap back short motions, so beware that if you indulge yourself into snapping too much at the expense of extension, you will never become a master level kicker. Now about your launching platform. I recommend students not to get used to adopting artificial stances, such as an on-guard sparring stance every time before and after they kick, which is quite frequent to see. You should prevent that your mind associates kicking to any type of particular stance. You must be able to kick from any position in which you may be found in real life. However, there is certainly a natural body disposition that will facilitate your learning process. That body disposition is a relaxed, rather high, natural L-shaped base position in which your front foot aims forward and your rear foot is posed in an angle from 75 to 90 degrees to the side. Your hands should be in a comfortable position, prepared to engage into action. Your head should probably be tilted a little forward as you are ready to pounce an opponent at the slightest opportunity. Always try to start and finish in that body disposition. Don't necessarily think of it as your sparring stance. A sparring stance will depend on your opponent. Your hands will be higher or lower depending on whether you are close or far from your opponent and other factors. Here we are talking about the position on which you will be building your kicking skills, something that is somewhere between a sparring stance and a casual everyday position. The orientation of your feet that I just described will keep open your three essential motions without need to any type of preparation. Kicking with your leading foot, kicking with your back foot using the backspin motion, and kicking with your back foot going with the ventral or natural rotation. This body disposition should prevent you from needing to move your leading foot inside in a preparatory motion before any spinning back kick. That is not needed if you adopt this kind of stance. Again, we want to avoid preparatory steps. Your gravity center should be held roughly in the middle of your feet, so that you may easily shift your weight either forward or backward. Do not sink into a formalized stance from which it will be difficult to escape. And don't stand too tall or high that you do not have a push-off ability. Obviously, the stronger and more explosive your muscles, the faster you will be able to break the inertia and more. Allow your knees to breathe into the rhythm. You should feel bouncy, light, yet sufficiently compressed to spring up. Now, You should float with your head suspended, trying to attain zero friction. The art of kicking involves avoiding friction with the ground. You should move as weightless, with your head held high, as if hanging from above, floating, in the same manner as fashion models have been said to be taught to walk. Get used to spinning and rotating over the ball of a foot, with your axis suspended and aligned. At the point of kicking, your head is gently tilted towards the target and not counterbalancing by leaning in the opposite direction. Your head should work in favor of the kick and not against it. One of the reasons for raising the knee of the kicking leg high is to position it above belt level and thus temporarily have a higher gravity center. The in-gravity skill is called light body and shown by some Baguazhang Kung Fu practitioners who are even able to walk over the rim of a basket. Taekwondo people and Tang Soo Do people are expected to know how to move in light mode with a high gravity center or a heavy mode using stances with the gravity center close to the ground. When it comes to training the Korean art of kicking, you should be used to different things. You should practice your kicks with the forward foot, with the back foot, using the frontal rotation, the dorsal rotation, both in 180-degree manner, 360-degree rotation, kicking while advancing, kicking while retreating, jumping, doing consecutive kicks. Practice to land your foot forward, practicing landing your foot at the back. You should get used to all kicking possibilities and be tied to none. Now, about 360-degree symmetries. Regardless of whether you kick with your forward or your rear foot, your kick should look identical at the point of impact. What I mean is, whichever is the path you choose, either you're spinning or you're not spinning, your kick should look the same because they are symmetrical. In that sense, when kicking with the leading foot, your round instep kick at the point of impact should look almost identical to your reverse round kick. The same path, opposite direction. With enough practice, you should be able to hit a target within reach at a full extent 360 range around you. I particularly insist on training with the leading foot, doing a reverse round kick against targets and landing forward. Chambering and shooting the kick should comprise one single curve. So that's a huge confession that I have to make. Although I have insisted on chambering, when you do the kick to apply it to a target, either a person or an object, in a real way, you should forget about the chambering. You will see that in episode 1, the combos video, I do it that way. Chambering is the only way to teach a proper path of the foot from the ground to the target. But kicks are about taking your foot off the ground into the target following one single curve. There is a coiling phase and an uncoiling phase. Coiling and releasing make up one single motion. They are simply different phases of one same curve. Chambering should never become a sharp, artificial deviation of such natural curve. Coiling involves bringing your knee and foot close to the gravity center, flexing the muscles that will be stretched while stretching the muscles that will be flexed, and then immediately shooting and releasing. But instead of thinking when to close and when to open, just think of yourself as a huge spring. And beyond yellow belt level, do not segment your kicks in artificial stages. Now, I want to mention what should be in your mind. The target you should think of is the central line of the opponent. Never focus on the surface. Aim at the inner vertical center that goes through the head down to the ground. So always get into the target, not just the surface. I recommend that front kicks attack the midsection, side kicks and round kicks may sometimes go high or to the midsection, crescent kicks and spinning reverse round kicks go exclusively to the head. Avoid leaning back when kicking high and keep in mind the letter Y principle. Always go beyond the surface, trying to affect the axis of your opponent. A word on preparatory motions and landing. The art of efficient, economical stepping is the secret to be able to fight with kicks. As soon as you get the chance, you whack the opponent with a kick which he or she cannot avoid. In connection with the post-kicking, that is, landing the foot, whichever kick you have performed, in principle you should make a habit on landing with your forward foot's toes and knee pointing forward. Except for round spinning kicks like the reverse round kick or the spinning outside crescent kick, which need to cover the full circle of the movement for educational purposes, unless the circumstances dictate otherwise, all other kicks should land forward, as if just having completed a front kick. In spinning side kicks, make a habit of not allowing the kicking foot to follow back in a circle. A very usual misconception when kicking is to make the kicking foot locked into a rigid form from the initial stage of the kick. This is wrong and will stiffen the whole motion and reduce speed. Let the ankle joint to move and unfold freely. In kicks such as a reverse round kick or hooking kick, the axe kick, the outward crescent kick, and in general, in all kicks in which you're supposed to strike with the heel coming from a side angle, doing a kind of circular motion, make sure that the foot is extended and that the Achilles tendon is not tense but folded. I mean, in those kicks, the toes should be pointing forward as part of the extension. As a rule, your feet should be so relaxed that while traveling, you may feel the breeze between your toes before reaching the target. Do not hold a guard while kicking. I know this may be contrary to what you've been taught, but keeping your arms rigid may stiffen your motions. Let your arms swing and compensate movements naturally as when walking. Kicks are offensive motions, and thinking of upholding your guard will insert a contradictory defensive mindset. If you are concerned about being hit while you are in the middle of a kick, you should improve your kicking speed so that your opponent doesn't have a chance to intercept you. Rather than covering yourself, you should be fast and lethal. It is the opponent who should be worrying about being covered, not you. You will be striking the opponent before he or she understands what happened. In due time, you will be able to use the hands while kicking, for grabbing, defending, or striking. But initially, just close your fists loosely at chest level. Your movements should be smooth and natural. Don't think of flexibility as a requirement that people need to cover to kick well. Think of flexibility as the elastic nature of motion. A key to martial arts is relaxed, natural motion, and kicks are large motions, so they will help you to spot any physical misalignments. Your circular kicks should be thought as whips that strike the target. Your front and side kicks should be thought of as pistons, penetrating, hitting with the hip, and then getting out of the target. Aim to have a kicking arsenal broad enough that it may surprise your opponent, pulling out unexpected kicks from unexpected angles. That is the essence of the Korean art of kicking. I'm not sure if I need to repeat this, but I will. Pivoting is fundamental. Pivoting maximizes reach, it ensures alignment of the shoulders and hips into the target, allows to make full use of body mass, and is the first link in the uncoiling chain. I use pivoting in the sense of body rotation, so it applies even when jumping. We should always unroll movements rotating the base foot, then come the hips, the knee of the kicking leg will join, and finally the foot. It is a sequence. In general, kicks follow centrifugal logic and demand that each joint contributes to the overall motion, arriving to full or almost full extension. The sequence in kicking is that the joints closer to your axis start moving first. So that's why I'm talking a lot about pivoting. Then the other joints join the motion. The joints that have just joined the motion after those earlier ones keep moving should never achieve any kind of extension greater than the extension that has already been achieved by the earlier joints. This means, for example, that in a turning kick or round kick, the knee of the turning kick should never reach full extension if you have not previously exhausted your pivoting motion and your hip rotation. Back spinning kicks are very important because they use the glutes, which are the largest muscles in the human body, because back spinning kicks make very good use of torque, and they are quite unexpected. The downside of back kicking is that you're exposing the back of your head, so you should practice your spinning a lot to become proficient to minimize that time of exposure. Spinning kicks include the spinning reverse round kick, the spinning side kick, and the spinning outward crescent kick. I recommend to do the spinning side kick, not the spinning back kick. For avoidance of doubt, the spinning back kick is the one in which the knee of the kicking leg faces down to the ground. The spinning side kick is stronger. It reduces the time during which the back of your head is exposed at the transition motion. It helps to build the habit of raising your knee and provides a better structure to combine with hand strikes while keeping yourself upright, even to continue kicking with the same leg without landing. The back kick or mule kick is fast. It's faster, but not as powerful when comparing both kicks correctly done by the same kicker. The back kick relies more on speed than on structure, and it involves leaning your head to the opposite direction of the target. However, note that there's an admissible or even good back kick and a forbidden back kick. The forbidden version is one in which you are totally blind, which at one point your kicking knee is facing down, lower than your kicking foot, what in ITF circles is known as back snap kick. If, on contrary, you raise your knee to the point from where, at the earliest stage, your lower leg is parallel to the floor, then you will have a good spinning back kick, which in ITF Taekwondo is called back piercing kick. It is not as good as the spinning side kick, but it might work very well for you, as it did fantastically for Benny the Jet Urquidez in his fights, and these days is shown by Conor McGregor. Let me be clear, I know that the back kick works for fighting. I know that very knowledgeable instructors teach it, but it is not good for building the habits that will take you to the highest kicking level stage. Although this is a Korean kicking project, it's important that I talk about the hand strikes. The fists are the most natural and effective weapons for humans to strike with. In principle, a properly closed fist is relatively heavy and hard enough to strike an opponent's face and cause damage. Hand strikes compared with kicks are without a doubt more precise, provide lots of possibilities, and require less specialized training. Also, using your hands to strike is a skill that may be improved practicing martial arts until an advanced age. On the other side, in general, kicks can generate between 50% to 100% greater force than punches. For women and some male body types, kicks are particularly suitable, and the power difference between kicks and punches is even greater, since if you are flexible and your hands are not as strong, kicks are a great option. My point here is that in the context of a practitioner of the art of kicking, your kicking skills should reach their total potential, but note that your kicks will come to full fighting capability only when they can be properly combined with hand techniques. Study how to use your hands to open combinations, to connect individual kicks, and to finish your combinations. In other words, you cannot become a master kicker unless you are a reasonably good puncher. Avoid the idea that you must score and then retreat. I insist that whenever you kick with your back foot, you consider the kick as a sort of extended forward step, a bridge that has the potential to be followed by an overkill strike with your hands. An aggressive attitude is necessary when kicking. Think about running over your opponent, striking with kicks and finishing with fists in the short distance if necessary. The score and retreat mindset may work as a sparring strategy in a sports context, but in a self-protection scenario, if you are used to kick and then step back, that habit might make you forsake the only chance you had to survive. Once you have successfully bridged the gap, you are not supposed to go back. Remember that when you are training, you are programming yourself as a martial artist, and your brain will only process clear messages. You must program yourself so that if the danger alarm comes off, you immediately become a fast and ruthless predator, and not a speculating tag player. Now, on consecutive kicking and jump kicking. Consecutive kicks, spinning kicks, and jumping kicks are the means to master this specialty. Consecutive kicking, that is, a string of rapid-fire kicks with the same foot without planting it to the ground, is very important to learn how to manage your balance while moving forward. Consecutive kicking will polish your chambering and will eliminate any tendency to lean back instead of going into the target. Jumping kicks demand that you complete the whole action with accuracy and grace airborne within a very short time before landing, so they are a great way to achieve explosive power and to get rid of all unnecessary and unnatural motions. Try to jump into the air, making your body as if it were a tight ball that you want to compress before exploding the kick. Then, try to land softly without much noise as a cat would. During jumping side kicks, tuck your non-kicking foot under your body and allow the knee to provide some time of reaction going in the opposite direction of the kick. Also, tucking your non-kicking foot high will provide proper distance of that foot to the floor and contribute so that both feet land simultaneously. You can also experiment trying to extend the non-kicking leg while jump kicking, but do not leave it hanging. Use it to increase your explosion, as the legendary master Heel Cho used to do. If you are still young, don't miss the opportunity to master jump kicking. It is something that you cannot leave for a later age. My advice is to work on the 6 fundamental kicks, and that you don't add any other kicks at least during the first 4 years of training. Then you might want to explore the ball of the foot round kick, the twisted kick, etc. And after that, your skills will blend with your creativity into new kicking possibilities. The 24 combos provide enough material, but note that this program is not an encyclopedia, it's just a training guide. Now, this is probably one of the most important points I need to make. A martial art based on striking skills assumes certain mental disposition. I will be clear on that. It is up to each person to decide whether to be a predator or a prey. It is a very difficult internal process, but you cannot escape from that. But if striking hard a fellow human being is unacceptable for you, even in a situation of protecting yourself or your loved ones, then you should not practice a striking martial art. If you watch at Chong Li's picture, it is clear about the two attitudes. Who adopts each role, predator or prey? Going back to kicks, the Korean style needs a lot of boldness and an attitude of excess. A prudent, conservative, and controlled type of motion is against the purpose of this method and will quite literally not get you very far. In the martial arts, there exist self-protection method approaches that may be more practical and demand less training compared to kicking. If, in spite of that, you have decided to pursue the art of Korean kicking, it is because you like it. Although kicking is difficult, kicking feels just great, and it respects the main principle of kicking, which is that training should always be fun. So, the best recommendation I can make is that you are bold, that you do your kicks and dare to greatness, and of course, enjoy your training. There's an irony here, which is that although I am not a fan of Olympic Taekwondo, an opinion I am more than willing to change, the best teaching I have heard about the Korean kicking art was phrased by the founder of modern Olympics, Pierre de Coubertin. When aiming for moral and physical beauty, he invited to go faster, higher, and stronger. So following that Olympic advice, let's always strive to kick faster, higher, and stronger. I hope you liked this video. If that is the case, put your thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and share. I will be checking for your feedback. The next episode will be following soon. And remember, as martial artists, we have the obligation to keep up with our training for a strong body, a wise mind, and a caring heart. Stay safe, you all.